In this video, we will cover additional things that a firewall can do to ensure the security of a network. So as packets come in, a firewall might determine that some packets need to be passed on to the antivirus server. The antivirus server is a specialized server to detect whether or not a virus, a Trojan, a worm, or a time bomb, etc. is passed into the network. So the antivirus stores certain signatures. Now these signatures are basically just text that match the signatures of existing well-known viruses, worms, etc. And if any of those signatures that are being passed into our network match some of these existing signatures, then we are going to remove those from even getting close to our network. However, if legitimate traffic comes through, the antivirus will do one of two things. It will either bounce it back through the firewall or send it directly to the destination host. As another part of a firewall's duties is to protect against denial of service. So let's say we have a hacker here that sends a SYN packet. The firewall will respond with the SYN acknowledge packet. Now, if the hacker is sending a ton of SYN packets, and then the SYN acknowledgements are being sent back by the firewall, but we never get an acknowledgement back, then the firewall will know to drop those packets. So just remember that we have a three-way handshake that includes a SYN packet and a SYN acknowledge packet and an acknowledge packet. So a legitimate host that complies with the standard of the three-way handshake, the firewall will recognize that this is true and accept it, and it's no longer a SYN flood attack, and it would then forward those SYN packets to the server, which would then engage in the three-way handshake process as well. So as part of firewalls, we want to ensure that we have a unified threat management. So as part of this, we have VPNs to ensure that all data is encrypted, even when we're not on the internal network. We want to ensure that we have denial of service protection, similarly to what we just discussed. We want to ensure we have stateful packet inspection. This is basically examining the initial packets of a communication to make sure that it is allowable, that it meets certain criteria. And then if it does, we will then allow all ongoing communication based on that standard. We also want network address translation to ensure that users who are outside the network don't know what our IP addresses are and can't access those directly. So what NAT does, just as a reminder, it converts sockets, internal sockets, to external sockets so that those IP addresses and ports cannot be seen by the other users. And then finally, we want antivirus filtering, which is what we just mentioned previously. So as companies go about building their firewall, they will think about an architecture. So if you think of an architect, what they do is they build a blueprint for a home or a corporation, etc. For a firewall, we are going to have the same kind of blueprint. So there are various pieces to a firewall architecture that we may want to include. So the first thing is that screening border router. This could take into account static packet filtering, which just scans one packet at a time very quickly. And then what could then happen is it could forward those packets onto a main border firewall. This could be engaged in our stateful packet inspection, which follows the opening connection, see if that is available. If that is correct, then we will then allow the rest of the ongoing communication. Additionally, packets here could be sent to various different servers. We have a server host firewall on the web. This would be a specific firewall to protect web traffic. We could have application proxy servers, which we've previously discussed in other videos, such as a SMTP or HTTP application server. We could have honeypot servers that can be like, think about Winnie the Pooh, who is so in love with honey that he sticks his head in a pot and he can't get out of it. So it could be like a staging server so that if someone is able to get into this DMZ zone, the demilitarized zone, they may think that they've found gold, but in reality it's a server that we've set up to kind of verify and see what kind of traffic they are engaging in. Additionally, we'll want internal firewalls that are going to scan packets as they come in from the firewall, the border firewall. And then we'll have host firewalls as well. So a server host firewall on like an accounting server or on a personal device as well we want to ensure that each device has these firewalls. So as you can see, firewalls become pretty comprehensive and exist across multiple devices. So why is firewall management so important? Well, if you think about all the rules that it would take to manage all these different firewalls across our entire organization, it can be very overwhelming. So how do we manage this? It is very important to be able to manage and update these rules, because if we forget to update one of these rules, then we potentially allow ourselves an open ability for an intruder to get into our network. So what we're going to do is establish a server that is going to handle all these firewalls. A user will then connect to this server, such as a firewall administrator. He will or she will update the policies on this firewall management server. The firewall management server will then pass all those rules or access control rules to the firewalls so that they can handle any updates that happen, any different signatures, virus signatures that need to be included, so that we can block any attacks from entering inside of our network.